Now, going back to some of the trending terms that we have in IAM, one of them is the generative AI. So, can you talk about how do you see generative AI growing in the IAM space?
So I think the most interesting use case that generative AI can happen in upcoming few years is that it would be highly used on the RBAC space or giving access to a specific user, right?
Namaste, everyone. Welcome back to our latest episode of the Why Not IAM podcast, the go to place where we deep dive into the world of identity and access management, exploring the stories and insights of some of the leading professionals in the field of identity and access management. Today, we are thrilled to have a very special guest on our show, Ankan Karmakar. He began his journey in the tech world at TCS, where he first dipped his toes into the vast ocean of IT, but it was not until a twist of fate that he found the true calling in the realm of identity and access management. Currently, he is making waves over at SailPoint, where he works in the professional services, helping organizations secure the digital identities and navigate the complex landscape of IAM. His path to becoming an IAM expert at one of the leading firms in the industry is nothing short of inspiration. I would really want to thank Ankan for joining us today. I am excited to unpack his journey from TCS to SailPoint and delve into his expert insight on the latest in IAM solution. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode.
Welcome to India's first identity podcast. Why not IAM?
Let's begin the podcast with how was your journey? How did IAM happen to you? Was it something that happened purposefully or it happened by accident?
Yeah, let me start from beginning. So I passed out around 2016 on electronics and telecommunication engineering, and I got my campus job from TCS.
Okay.
So I joined on TCS on like around 2016 December. So there was first few months I was actually trained in Java. It was at that time we have a ILP program, initial learning program on TCS. So we were trained in Java. After that, we were deployed back in my hometown, Kolkata. There, I was introduced to cybersecurity for the first time. To be honest, I didn't had much of an idea what was that. At that time, TCS cybersecurity practice, what we call it now, was called ESRM, Enterprise Risk and Security Management. So we, to be honest, didn't have any idea. There were only four, including me, who got that thing from the whole batch. So was a little curious and also because afraid because there was no one know about all my peers didn't know what that actually is. As the cybersecurity was wasn't mentioned anywhere there, there wasn't a clear understanding of it. So when I
Okay.
came here, came to Kolkata and reported back to the seniors that were that trained me. So they explained me what IAM was. So you can say that from the beginning of my career, I was trained on IAM. I didn't know any kind of software development except anything else on Java. Java was like the core practice of learning program that I went on, but I was gradually translated to IM to be honest. So first few months were, to be honest, a little boring. I didn't understand how the IM is so much important in cybersecurity or the risk management and the organization. Then I got the understanding and I was exposed to different kind of tools that we be implementing for the customer. Like Point was one of the gold products at that time. It was a rising product, SailPoint Identity IQ. And there was also Okta, Ping, CA SiteMinder or CA Identity Manager. Those are all the things that were exposed on me.
Okay.
Luckily, at that time, my first project on PCS was a phase one implementation. When I say phase one, it's basically what you say, a new implementation on a company. So that company didn't had a prior IM program on it. So
Okay.
we were the first team that implemented SailPoint for them and implemented the IAM for them, streamlined the IAM for them. So that was start of the journey. I gathered much of my SailPoint implementation knowledge or engineering knowledge, how the SailPoint tool is implemented on a organization field. I learned it from there. Also the customer interactions. So after around 2 years, we had a successful go live around what we say one after 1 year I joined. So it was a great achievement at the start of my career for me, at least at the time what I understood. The go lives were on the IM spaces were very rare and it's a very big achievement for TCS because TCS used those specific go lives as a achievement, and they showed it to other customer to get more, gain more customers, right? So those were very big achievements at those times. So after 2 years, TCS had its boundaries, right? So it basically I was in the same project. So I thought that it's a high time in my career. I have SailPoint as my primary skill in my CV, and I wanted to move out to a separate job role where I want to implement SailPoint more for the customer and explore more of the industry on that side. So while I was looking from around 2018 mid, I got a chance to interview at Ernst& Young, EY. So at that time, I went on EY. I went for interview on PwC, and there are other few, but those are two the primary offers that I got from the industry, because SailPoint was such a booming industry. I had so much interviews, and I almost cracked all of them because
Okay.
I
And
had
what
so much.
what was the time? Which time was this around? Which year?
Around 2018 June, July,
2018. Okay, okay, okay,
when I went on the interviews, and I got an offer around October.
okay.
So it took a little time to get those rounds sorted, because I was on a junior level, so they took around 3 rounds for me and the offer getting and sorting of the offer list. It took at least almost 2 months to get an offer sorted for me.
Mm.
So luckily at that time I got two offers, one from EY and one for PwC. PwC's offer was a little slightly better, so I jumped onto EY at that time. So that was a very good decision at the time, because when I joined in EY, I was exposed to multiple customers, and not small customers who were in the phase one, but also on a big larger scale customer. EY had most of the larger scale customer on the US region. So
Okay.
there the IAM implementation were huge, and Identity IQ was a gold standard product for any company at that time, right?
Mm.
So my consulting knowledge on IAM actually exponentially grew at that time. I knew how to handle customers. I knew how a large scale best practices, how the customers are implementing stuff. I knew how the industry evolves around all the other products, and how SailPoint Identity IQ that I am expert in was separate from the all the other products, and how I can help people to grow on the industry. So I actually got a very, very great exposure on that. And and my manager at the time, EY, gave me opportunities on working on different projects, or projects and different companies at that time.
Okay.
So around EY, I worked on what you say, around five was on tenure of 3 years. I actually worked on around 6 to 7 projects.
Okay. That's
Right.
good. Mm.
Yeah, and I knew how the industry looks like on a different perspective. I worked on banking, I worked on financial sectors, I worked on retails, I worked on what you say, retails and the commerce, what you say, customer media, right? That industry, I don't actually know the right word
Media
for
and
it.
entertainment.
Media entertainment, correct. So those all the industry I got exposure on, and how their IAM program differs from each other. So I know what are the best practices on this side. So around that time, my knowledge not only grew in the SailPoint implementation part, but how IAM as a whole is implemented on the industry. What are the best practices? So around that time, after around 3 years, I thought that probably it's a good time to go ahead and explore a new opportunity on my career. I was primarily looking for industrial roles, like on the customer centric roles, like we are consultant, right? And there are customer roles where I wanted to be a part of customer centric. So I got offers from Salesforce, and also I got offer from what you say, KPMG as well, because I wanted to keep my options open. And at that time, I applied for SailPoint through common channels and the SailPoint job code, and I landed an interview. That was great. Actually, at that time, I didn't have much hope, because I thought, but when I went to the interview, their main focus was not on my SailPoint knowledge, rather how I tackle challenges on the IM. So my problem solving skill was the main focus on the interview.
Okay. Okay.
And I also had a SailPoint certified engineer at that time, certification at that time. So that was helpful. But the main topic on the interviews on that time was how I solve different IM problems. As I had different industry exposure, I knew how to tackle on different IM roles, how the best practices are implemented throughout the industry on the different domains, different, what do you say, horizon in this case. So I was able to crack 2 rounds of interview. They were pretty impressed with my IM domain knowledge. And so they gave me an offer, and here I am.
How is it working at SailPoint?
Okay. So SailPoint as a company is different for any consulting industry. So I normally work on professional services or expert services scale. So this is actually the other side of the table. If you guys ever worked on any consulting firm, so whenever we get any kind of consulting firm get any kind of in trouble, they normally reach out to expert services or professional services in that matter. Expert services are mainly based on support tickets. So which support tickets are pretty complicated. In case of identity IQ, they are often are complicated because customer why they will reach expert services if they can solve it from their side, right? The consultant from themselves. So those problems are pretty complicated and challenging at this end. So we have to give them proper best practices and we have to say no where there are the implementation is not correct or they are not going in the right approach. So we have to lay a firm or transparent message to them that this is how you will be doing it. This is the way you want to this is the way you want to achieve it, but this is how you will achieve it. So how, when, which part you can do this, what we advise on. Our goal is not only to solve their whatever task they're given. We also have to give them best practices that is expected from us, right? So whenever we engage with customers, we also advise them how they should implement those things. If they have a faulty design or they have a little lackluster design where performance is an issue, we always point out to them and we always advise them to do better on those things.
Okay. Okay.
Because often what happens, the consulting firms like PwC, AY, Deloitte, or TCS, InSale, Infosys, whatever, whoever implemented them for that solution, normally they always don't give the best solution on that set, right? So our job as an expert service is to give them proper advice how to do that. And actually, in this case, clients actually listens to us, right? Because we are the experts. We are presented as the expert for them and we are giving you advice how this product is to be implemented, right? So this is one part of the job. This is expert services, and then next come the professional services. Professional services is the same thing what I did in Deloitte, UI, or whatever, but it's a far more vast responsibility than there. We only did what you say implementation there. We have in here we actually have to do the design. We have to advise the client how is the best practices, not we first have to understand what is the use case for it, how we recommend doing it, and do with the less amount of customization because customization, to be honest, is highly maintainable thing, right? So we have to train customer to maintain those things. So we always advise customer how to do those things and do it less complicated. So in the future, much more less complicated to manage, right, or maintain.
Okay. Okay.
So those kind of these are two horizons of my job that I tackle. So I am currently working on the both cases. Whenever I am free, I work on ES cases, expert service cases, and we have regular projects that we are part of.
Okay. And how is it different from your previous role where you were working in a consulting company? What's
Yes.
the difference between that consulting versus the professional services that you're doing in a product
Yes,
company?
yes. So basically, we are OEMs, right? On the side of the professional services, right? We are supposed to be the best, what is the implementation team or engineering team available, right? To them. So the main difference is we have all the answers because we should know all about the products in and out, right?
Yeah.
In case of consulting, whenever we are stuck, we actually go raise and support ticket and then we assign to it. In this case, you have much more resources in your hand, right?
Yeah.
So you can talk to engineering, you have much more in-depth knowledge, I mean, in-depth transparency on how the product works. So that is what is expected from you, right? You should have much more knowledge in the product so that you can solve it. Maybe possibilities are the professional services not always know the answer at the time, right? But we can research. That's how it's different from the other consulting firm. We can go and ask people. There are multiple senior architects who are working on the program more than decades, so they can help you out on that those kind of stuff. And we always recommend how customers should design, how it should be the best practice on a longer run, and how this would be sustainable. In consulting firms, we will just do whatever the customer want. Here, the responsibility is the little more. We have to guide the customer towards their success, right? So this is how the normal professional service and the consulting professional service differ.
Okay. Okay. And and thank you very much for giving a walk through your day to day at SailPoint.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
what are some of the issues that customers are currently struggling with? Can you name a couple of them which you're actively working on solving them?
I mainly work on identity IQ, but there are things on the identity now side as well, because the point is most of the customer are actually migrating to AWS cloud. So those are separate topics. I don't want to go in depth on this, but those two problems are pretty different, right? The cloud problems we can solve much easily, but the on the where they are deployed in the customer end. So most of the problem that customer face to that they are is performance and the way the implementation is done. So identity IQ is a much stable mature product, right?
Yep.
So over the years. So what happens on identity IQ, the amount of customization customers do at a time, they cannot manage it, and the code always get broken at some point, some portion where the debugging is much more problematic.
Okay.
So the main problem we face is the complications and the performance issue. Normally customer face it out. So how the thing slows down, the threads pauses down, why it's not working. Sometimes SailPoint has an out of the box RBAC configured, right? The business role and IT role, whoever knows the in depth of it, I don't want to go into it. But sometimes customer create their own RBAC structures, right? So recently, this kind of thing happened to happen. I deal with a customer where they created their own RBAC and they weren't able to understand where the things are going wrong. So
Right.
I have to work with the engineering team to understand, get the product logs and get the understanding where the problem lies, and how at least not solution, at least point out these are the problems and how in the future they can fix it.
Okay. And I'm just trying to understand because see if it is a product that is been deployed as a standard model, I
Correct,
get that you'll be able to identify, go talk to the architect, the way it is designed and fix
correct,
them. But
correct,
when it is customized,
correct.
how do you approach that problem? Because customization can be at any level using any
Right.
backend framework, right? So isn't that a very difficult task to even find out? Because in that case, the organization have to open up all the tools and the codes that they have implemented for you to understand.
Correct.
So how is that
Yeah.
journey? Can you help our listeners
Correct.
understand that?
I won't say difficult, but yeah, the correct term would be challenging in this case. So
Absolutely.
yes, expert services. When I say experts, these are the part of expert services job when to understand where the can customization can happen. So this doesn't come in a day, to be honest. When you work on a product, for my case, I worked on identity IQ almost 7+ years now. So I know in depth how where the customization could go wrong to approach this also. If you see identity IQs have different model like RBAC, access request, lifecycle management, right? So specifically whenever the customer creates a new ticket, they always say that this is not working, right? So when that's not working, we have to understand what customization there are. We always ask for, obviously we ask for codes, whatever customization they did. We also ask for logs, whatever log they provide us for, so that we can enable certain log on the product level, also on the code level that customer doesn't have direct access to, right? The product code, and also the customized code that customer deployed. So all those things all together gives us a much more analytical viewpoint of understand what the things, and also you have to talk to customers, right, in day to day, how the problem introduced, how they first saw that problem, how what was the history of the implementation, what is the use case they were trying to approach. You have to understand all those things to give them a proper solution, or at least reach to on your debug root cause analysis, right? So all these things comes into picture on the root cause analysis. So SailPoint gives you all the resource to do that, and they also, and if you go to community, there are a lot of people there in community, right? Mano peers, all those stuff. They are celebrity engineers or architect at this point, right? So they help you have get their direct access to them. They can, and they are very good people, to be honest. When I work with them, they help you in a lot of way. They help you to understand the product very a bit more. And if you worked on identity IQ or SailPoint identity IQ for this long, even I don't know everything on SailPoint identity IQ. I can say that there are a lot of uncharted territory that I didn't went on, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so those kind of things they help out, and even the architects they are working for 8 or 9 years, they don't know everything. They point me to talk to this person or talk to that person, right? So this is how we actually did it. So as a company, where I can say this, how SailPoint helps their employee to grow and learn the products which they are working on in much more broader scale.
Okay, okay, that is really great. I mean, it is becoming more interesting, and I feel like listening to you more than me
Hmm.
asking questions. But then again,
Yeah.
I do have to ask few questions. So now, can
Hmm.
you talk about few of the common use cases that SailPoint solves for organization? A couple of them, like I know about RBAC, SOD, and
Hmm.
certifications and all. So I just want to hear it from you.
So in a broader sense, historically, when SailPoint was first introduced, it was popularly an IGA tool, right? Governance tool. So it
Yeah.
was their main use case were tackling certifications, or what you say, access reviews, right?
Mhm.
So it's good at doing that, and it's still doing that. Whenever I go to customer, these are the first few things. Access review is the most important. Access review, lifecycle management, and governance. That's the main thing that SailPoint Identity IQ can tackle much more, I think, much more better than the other competition in the market right now. That's the main use cases that we tackle in a day-to-day basis, like lifecycle join and move a lever, access request, ad hoc request, and the access review part. These are the most basic use cases that we actually implement nowadays. And we, as a professional service, we try to do it much with lot less customization, or at least try to do less customizations over what the base or product that is, rather than other consultancy from because of the factor we understand customers pain point, right? Because at the time, whenever we are not here for very long period, right, what happens, we have to think of the future. What happens after we leave after the implementation is done, we leave. Customer may or may not have technical expertise right on that. So we try to maintain much less complexity to maintain, or if even if we do customization, we try to make it much flexible and less complex, so that it's much more maintainable in the future.
Okay. And again, I'm just curious to know about SailPoint's journey in itself, right? Like it has been
Hmm.
a leader from a very long time. There are different
Right.
products also trying to compete with, but
Hmm.
still, what is making SailPoint so best among the IM industry on the IGS side? Like, what are some of the things that SailPoint is investing on?
Right. So that is a very good thing that you asked. I wanted to talk about this one. So what makes SailPoint a winner is how they actually tackle use cases, right? How they allow team to be customizable. SailPoint is not trying to compete on a feature scale. Normally, if you see on the other products, they normally market as hey, they have this feature, this is like SOD certifications, access reviews, all those things, or whatever SailPoint has, they have it. SailPoint doesn't compete on those levels.
Okay.
SailPoint compete on a level, they have built a good partnership with PwC, Deloitte, EY, or Accenture at this time to do a great implementations for them. They actually try to solve, and they don't over promise what they can deliver. They give always understand the customer problem, and we want to give them a practical solution and what the product,
Okay.
or not only on identity IQ, you can also say on identity now or identity cloud security as well. So those are the main topics, main thing how sale points, what you say, the pointing towards the
Okay.
not on a they wanted to, what you say, wanted to go on to solving customer problem rather than to over promise things, how they can solve with the existing product, not to over promise what we can say. They don't say yes to everything. They understand customer problems, they want to solve that in a, what you say, on a rather streamline scale, or what would be the best for the organization at that time, right? So
Probably, I would say maybe following some of the best practices and then
yes,
also ensuring that the product is there and easily it should be managed easily by the organization, and it should
correct,
also be able to cater to their simple to complex use cases, right? And also let them
correct.
mature in time. And now that you have said that you're dealing with a lot of customers, right, can you tell me
Hmm.
some of the challenges that you face while dealing with many clients or multiple projects at the same time, and how do you manage them?
Yeah, like sale in the sale point, we have specifically our on to provide on each project, right? So this is how we normally manage. So we have, like, we have specific schedule to manage those things. Those are very, what you say, business organization thing, that how we have schedule to it. But we don't. But what we understand, that we particularly give some specific time to every customer to understand it.
Okay.
Okay. So the challenges, if you say, I won't say the timing is challenges. The challenge is what is to provide the best solution to the customers and to help out with the customer. If you work with professional services, you work with their customers IAM team. And when you go with them, there are a lot of resistance from other teams, right? Like we cannot do that, we cannot do those things, these things. We have to understand, we have to go with the customer, and we are not here to fight with them, right? We are here to help them, right? So
Yeah.
that's the thing. What's the thing? That's the main thing. Problem to understand customer problems and to help them, not to fight with them, to so that they can implement the best solutions. So in a day-to-day challenge, you can say I would say the expert services are the most challenging part of my job, because at that time they have they why they raise expert service. If you, you can understand, customer has tried everything in their mind that they can do from their self, and they still cannot solve it. That's why they come to us. And at that time, it's understandable, the customer is a little frustrated, right? Because they tried everything and they probably wants a solution at that time. But this is not, that's not how the things work. We have to understand the customer problems and where the code is breaking or where the customization is breaking, and then we have to solve those things, right? So keeping ourselves cool and helping out the customer, so that we are not here is what I'm repeating every time, that we are not here to fight with them, right? We are here to help them and hold their hands and go through these things, right? So that's what's the toughest part of the challenging part of the job is the expert service and solving their problems on a day-to-day basis, understanding how the use cases work, what their use cases is, what they're trying to achieve, and what would be the best practice or best way to do that.
Okay. Okay. That is a really good explanation, Ankan. Thank you very much. And
Hmm,
now that you have solved all the questions, that is like on the problems that you are solving it now, right? In
hmm,
current,
hmm,
where is
hmm.
SailPoint heading overall?
SailPoint, to be honest, now heading towards more of a cloud structure. If you see, the markets is much more leaning towards cloud or cloud computing or the cloud IAM products. So there is Okta, Savant, all those stuff. SailPoint identity now is competing with the other products as well on the standards, right? So their main focus is right now is identity security cloud ISC. To be honest, it gives a wide range of product. That doesn't mean identity IQ is going away. Identity IQ is there. It's a very mature product and it's here to stay. And but we the sale point as a whole organization's perspective is moving towards a much more, what do you say, cloud first approach, right? So there where we are going in a much more way. And also we are investing, one is investing in AIs as well. So in future, like the AI capabilities can come into the product.
Okay. So now, like we spoke about the challenges and the
Hmm,
and how you approach this. Like when you're dealing with a customer or when you're
hmm,
trying to solve a problem, what goes
hmm.
behind your mind? What tools and what are the resources that you use when you're trying to approach a problem? Is there any resources that we can that our viewers can also read about or go and listen to, or any resources that you use, right? When you are trying to
Hmm,
solve any problem. I know you have a certain set of experience, right? That will
hmm,
definitely help you cover 80,
hmm,
90% of the problem. But
hmm.
if there is something that is unique, what is your go-to resources?
Yeah, so basically the documentation that SailPoint provide is a very good portion of it that we can you can read it out whenever they are tackling with a specific set of problem, right? So whenever we deal with certain problems, as I mentioned, we always go to documentation portals to read out the documentation. As I mentioned before, that there won't be a problem in all the places, right? There will be a problem in either on performance or either on RBAC, access request, or LCMs or workflows or whatever, right?
Mhm.
SailPoint has a vast documentation over this last decade, right? So that documentation is very rich and they explain you a lot. So I would always, whenever I get a problem, even if I know the basics, I always open those documentation parts and to read it up. And even SailPoint has more than 100 connectors. That's a strong point for them, right? They have more than 100 out of the box connector. We can integrate it in normal them. And to be honest, no one actually implement and have all the 100 connectors knowledge, right? So always whenever we go to a new implement a new connector, always read the connector documentations that is provided there. It's very fast. It gives you a lot of sense. And also after that, if there is a specific problem, after going through the basics, I always try to search on the community. Community is your best friend if you're working on identity IQ or identity now for that matter. SailPoint's community is very strong. People help around or not community. Also, there's developers portal now. So
Mhm.
those community are they are pretty active community, and SailPoint ensures that these communities remain active with lot of developer activities. They post everything. So anyone, if you don't have right answer, probably you can post those things or I'm being a SailPoint resource itself, I probably can reach out to person. But if I work outside, I would recommend always going to the community checkout post if they anyone have ever post something on those communities or on the developer portals. If not, if it's not urgent, probably raising a post and getting some response from it would be the better approach. Doing
And who can
research on you.
post and who
Mm,
can post these kind of questions in the community? Because we have members who are
mm,
either working in consulting or services or
mm,
for their own companies, right? So can anyone go
right.
and post it, or do you need a certain login credentials?
Not login credentials. I think before a year back, I think the community login membership, the post viewing things were only available to the partners and the customers, right?
Huh?
Both on the developers and the community portal. But right now, I think you can use your personal email, I mean Gmail or Yahoo. I'm not completely sure about that. I have to check, but you probably can do it. But if you are working with a partner or customer, it becomes much more easier to use their login ID to do those
Okay, okay.
researches.
Thank you, Ankan. Now,
Right.
I was just trying to understand, right? See, you really have had a very rich career in terms of learning, whether you
Mm,
worked on with TCS, moved on to EY. The one thing that I've seen being consistent was your urge to learn more, right?
mm,
And to deep dive into a lot of new technologies, different use cases.
mm.
How do you look at a tool when it comes to learning, right? How do you learn that? Because I see a lot of people struggling when they get a new use case, or they are like clueless. What should we do? How do we get on to learning it? What is your go-to mantra for learning any tool and making it familiar with yourself?
That's a very interesting question because I have similar kind of experiences. When you learn new tools or new things, I would recommend always to understand the use cases what we are trying to do. At the beginning of the career, I just went through the what you say, the example exercise documents and whatever they say. No, don't try to do it like that. Try to understand what the use cases are and how they are trying to solve it, how the each steps are helping you go to that process. When you understand why you are doing a certain step, you get it better understanding on when you are doing right now. So first step would be understanding how the tools is trying to solve it. If you have an example documents or exercise document or something like that, then try similar kind of use cases by yourself through the communities or Google it or whatever, however, or whatever resources available to you, right? So that would be, I would say, would the correct path of tackling a new products. Programming languages are easy. There are a lot of resources there. But when you work on IAM, the products are always vast. The things are not similar. Whatever is happening on this product is completely different on another product, right? So on that scale, what I would say, understand the use case first, because only thing common is the use cases on the product. Everything else is totally completely, even the terminologies are different. But whatever they are doing, like with whatever we call it on aggregation, on SailPoint, probably in Oracle or other tool, we call it reconciliation. But they are doing the same thing, but approaches are different, right?
Um,
So
um,
understand how they are trying to achieving these common use cases. So when you understand how the common use cases on the broad product, you will get a much more understanding to how to implement those things or how to at least learn basic things on those products.
Okay, okay. That is a very good point for all our listeners and viewers. Thank you very much, Ankan. Now,
Mm.
going back to some of the trending terms that we have in IEM, one of them is the generative AI.
Mm.
So, can you talk about how do you see generative AI growing in the IEM space?
So I mean, generative AI is still a magic to it, right? So I think the most interesting use case that generative AI can happen in upcoming few years is that it would be highly used on the RBAC space or giving access to a specific users, right?
Hmm.
So currently, if I talk about a use case that normally what happens when a joiner, normally people ask, raise bunch of tickets or bunch of requests on it, access, right? So what AI can do actually to automate those things, right? Let's say you want the RBAC role, right? Where a specific joiner comes into place and he wants basic these kind of things. Now, how are we doing it today? We are gathering the requirements and giving it to a business analyst, and business analyst then goes to the IM engineers or whoever, and they implement those things or in the product or however in their homegrown solution. Currently, I think what SailPoint is doing as a very good thing in the AI field is the generative AI to build these things on a generative capability, right? What I think the future will look like is the customer will go on the tool and they will type it down what they want on a birthright access or a basic new accesses, right? The generative AI will create a specific role or access profile or whatever we call it on different products. It will create it by themselves and it will help us to ease the solution of RBAC, right? Because the business RBAC understanding on the business side and the technical side is vastly different. How the business thinks they are pretty simple. Like they, whenever a employee joins, please we give them this access. And when you do it on an ad hoc basis, it's simpler. But when you are actually automating this stuff, it gets complicated, right? Like the use cases I was talking before that these things happens when you go out of the RBAC structures and create much more complicated RBAC. So I think generative AI will come up and take these responsibilities and will develop much more better role-based access control in the future, where the customers can just type in whatever they have and they will give us best approach of it.
Great. This is going to be interesting space, yeah. Because there
Hmm.
are so many uncharted areas, right, where we can
Hmm.
go on using generative AI. And then, as you said, it
Hmm.
is that's become a magic. Few years ago, there was nothing, and now you see
Hmm.
it's evolving enormously, right? And I agree in the IGA space as well as in different space in the authentication and PAM space. This will be a very
Hmm.
beneficial tool, I would say, or technology.
Hmm. Hmm.
Before I move on to the audience question, I really have a very
Hmm.
personal question that I want to ask with you, right?
Hmm.
As I've interacted with you a couple of times and then tried to know you and how you look into various things, right? I want to
Hmm.
understand who's Ankan and what is his aspirations, because I know you're not going
Yeah.
to stop here. You started your
Hmm.
journey 7, 8 years ago back in
Hmm.
TCS. The only thing driving you is the urge to learn, right?
Hmm.
Now, and I know you'll go on for another maybe 15, 20 years, 25 years, right? I want to understand who was this man behind all the work that you're doing and what is your
Right.
eventual aspiration?
To be honest, my passion was to actually go develop. I have very great inspiration on doing writing very good codes. I was expecting when I got into this, I will be doing development work, to be honest. My main mantra was I love coding,
Okay.
regardless of any language, Java or Python or anything. Like even if I get time today, I go a lit code or any other coding platform and try to solve algorithmic problems.
Mhm.
So that's the main motivation for to learn stuff and implement some stuff from basis. When I first got IM, I was a little disappointed. What is this thing? There are configurations, but when you go deep into these stuff, you understand. Okay, these are not as easy as doing any code. You can just learn things. You learn the thing. That's everything else is thing, right? IM is a different speed. So my main inspiration when I went to IM, yeah, it's not that easy. It's the backbone of a structure. When you think of IM as if one of the fundamental modules of any product you are developing, regardless of field. So there is a small section for IAM, and everyone ignores that part, that identity access management, whatever it is. It's just user login and maintaining the user sessions and all those things. But when you think on a larger scale, where there are 500 applications and you are maintaining those things, the challenge becomes there. So that's the thing. I am mainly a geek in my heart. So I try to learn new things, not on only IM. I am very interested on what AI is doing and what generative AI. I often go see YouTube videos, how the things are working, how developers are doing things, or what are the new products coming in. And if you, there, a personal side of me is I like gaming very much, right? And I check new products, what are there in market, and either it's be it PlayStation or Xbox or whatever. I like tech product. And if you think that's what I wanted to be, I'm old. I wanted to surrounded by technology in future. And my main mantra, to be honest, in upcoming years, what I wanted to do is basically be a little more of a cybersecurity expert, not only limited myself on IAM space, going on the what you say, team blue team defense system, or what you say, application securities, those kind of things I want to understand a little more. And if I can get a chance, probably I won't, but I trying my best to get some insight on how those things work. I personally learn those things. Try to go check different YouTubers on all those stuffs and how those things work, how I can be and how attacks work. So those kind of things. So you can say my broader goal is to explore the whole cybersecurity region, probably in future manage or direct a small cybersecurity team of my own.
Absolutely. This is really inspirational for all our listeners and viewers.
Hmm.
And I wish all your dreams would not because of luck or anything, but because of the hard work and persistence that you're putting in, right? To
Right.
each and everything that you're doing. I'll definitely want to see something happening in the future for you. So
Yep.
with that, Ankan, I would want to go to our audience question. So this is the first time where I've actually introduced or I wanted our community members to join the session and then get a chance to interact with you and ask
Hmm.
maybe a couple of questions. Here we can start with Vinod. Hi, Vinod. You can unmute yourself and
Hey,
then
hi.
you can ask your question.
Hey, hi, Ankan. It's great to have you here in the podcast with Ravi. Great to hear all your experiences and all your work that you have done for SailPoint and the other companies. So one of the question is, as you said, SailPoint is more concentrating towards the identity security cloud and its new offerings. Recently, I think in December, it has announced the different sort of plans like standard, business, and different sort of suits and all. As it is more concentrating towards the identity security cloud area, like how will be the roadmap for a consultant or an engineer who is already working in a IIQ space? How will be the path for a IAM engineer who is having experience within SailPoint, INTIQ, or any other in-house like on-premise products?
Right. So see, if you are talking purely on the perspective of identity security cloud or identity now, if you IIQ, things becomes much easier for identity now. Identity now. It's basically the same product in a cloud version, have much probably a little robust capability on security. So to be honest, when I won't worry much about that. Previously, I said that before. IIQ is not going anywhere. Okay. So IIQ is there to stay because there would be companies or security firms they don't want their product or don't everybody don't want their product in cloud, right? They want their product locally on their data center. Those things will be there always. But yes, there is a shift on industry. Most of the industry is moving to the cloud right now. So identity now, don't get intimidated by identity now. Identity now is much fairly simpler product. Any cloud product is, I would say, is much more simpler version of it because as it is maintaining in cloud, the amount of complexity we can put it or compare customization we can put it on those SaaS products are gets a little bit limited. So if you are in identity, I won't worry about it because when the times come, you will eventually will be working on identity now, and the identity IQ engineers will gradually shift to identity now in going forward. Okay, so don't worry about the trajectory. Probably the trajectory is where the market is heading, and you will be, and after some times will be getting the identity now. And if you're working in identity IQ, are great because currently identity IQ SailPoint is selling identity IQ, and there are getting identity IQ resource is getting much more harder because people are learning identity now, and shifting from identity now to identity IQ is a little bit of a resistance because the product is a little bit complex for how much longer identity IQ is than now. But eventually they will learn. And if you IIQ, this is great, and you will eventually shift to identity now. And when you go on this console, you will see it's much more similar and much more easier than identity. This kind of like analogy you can think of it. How Java is much more complex version and Python, everybody is shifting to Python or much more easier version of the things, right? So if you know the high complicated language, shifting to a lower easier for you, right? Yes, that's the thing. And yes, and for the other question, yes, the future, to be honest, is cloud. Most of the industry is actually leaning, market is actually leaning toward cloud products more. So SailPoint have to go towards their strategies is going into our cloud products. But yes, they are not actually funding the on-premise. There will be still, even after, I think, it is my personal opinion, even after 10 years, there would be still some firms, mainly the banking and financial firm, they don't want their data to be on the clouds. They will still use identity as going forward. But the interesting part of the any cloud system is that whenever SailPoint or any other company, whoever are developing an on-premise product, they develop or upgrade or new feature. Customer doesn't understand those features immediately, right? They have to go through upgrade process and all those things. Whenever SailPoint pushes something into identity now, it's much more immediate, right? So they can seal the innovation much more. So that's why the things are going to cloud and will be in the future. So that's the main takeaway I think would be that don't be intimidated from cloud.
Yeah.
And if you're on-premise systems, and that's I don't think there's nothing to worry about. The cloud systems are much easier to learn.
Thanks, Ankan. I understood. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vinod. So we have Praveen. Hi, Praveen.
Thank you, Ravi and Ankan, for having me here. So I think most of the my queries you already answered on the question of Ravi and Vinod. So I want to continue the same trend only. I want to ask you this AI-driven security and identity analytics and intelligence. So
Hmm.
is it part of only identity now, or it can be integrated with the identity IIQ also? Also, or is it a separate license module, or like it is only the feature?
Yeah, Praveen, thanks for question. I can't say much thing about the licensing feature. I don't have much transparency, to be honest, on those things. Okay, you probably they have to call talk to their CSM or customer service manager on the licensing part. But what I can tell you is the how the modules are integrated. Right now, identity AI can be integrated with both identity now and I think in identity IQ as well. It's basically sorry, identity AI does is basically a predictive identity and it's a SaaS product itself. So it's a separate product and you probably have to license it separately. And what it gives what a recommendation, right? So those that's the main capability of the current identity AI that's happening, and they also gives role mining model. The product is based used with SaaS. To be honest, identity is built for SaaS, but there are capabilities to integrate with identity. Some features can be integrated with identity IQ as well. Basically, that suggestion of if a user should have I mean on the certification or access review case, if they give us recommendation if the user should have that access or not, right? So those are the things. But at the end of the day, those auditors doesn't take AI decision much seriously. So a human has to take the decision, right? So those are the main integration part. Their identity IQ have a little bit less integration with the product that are going through. To be honest, Identity IQ has so much things, has a rich plugin framework that anyone can build their own plugin on and do those stuff. And Identity IQ has SailPoint has a program so that people on the community actually build product plugin product and try to do their own integrations to it. And after if that those products through CSNs or I think anything probably get SailPoint certified as well if they comes through a legitimate sources.
Yes, Ank. Thank you. And also, I have seen like many times at the time of role mining, it is giving
Hmm.
some recommendations in IIQ
Right.
as
These are they some features are can be integrated with Identity IQ as I mentioned, but focus is on more on the SaaS. It's much more easier to integrate with SaaS rather than on with Identity IQ.
well. Okay, thank you. So one like another question is last question regarding this certifications. I'm not sure, but I have already to apply for SailPoint certified identity IQ engineer certification. Is it
Hmm.
mandatory to have this associate certification, or can we go and directly apply for engineer certification?
Yes, you can do you I think you can check the certification prerequisite from the university page. There are certain things. I don't think you need the associate certification, but don't hold me for that. You have to check the identity university. Planning to give for the identity IQ engineer or something, I will say get a good grasp on the regular day-to-day development areas. That is the main asking point on those certification.
Okay, okay, Anka, thank you.
Hey, hi, Ankan. One more question from my side. I just wanted to know what will be the interview tips? Like, how can a person with some SailPoint experience, like, how can he crack the interview for any consultant or engineer role, just on a high level, maybe?
Yeah. So there are two parts of on this question. To be honest, basically, we have to understand that when you go for a consulting role or a SailPoint engineer role, SailPoint engineer, whenever the consulting firm takes on the SailPoint engineering role, they will focus on your SailPoint knowledge as itself, right? They will ask technical questions on SailPoint, how to implement this, how to implement that. So that I would say where you get more experience to take those small things like how the aggregation task is created, how those things you have to clear your basics on SailPoint identity.
And I'll just add one more thing here. If you can help us answer more from a interview clearance perspective for the sale point company itself. Okay,
Okay,
so
sure.
that was the overall question. Like, how can someone clear a interview in sale point?
Yeah, I thought that question was mainly on the other companies as well, right? So I will clear like on both of the parts.
Absolutely. You can talk about the consulting if they're approaching for
Hmm.
a consulting company like Deloitte, PwC, or
Hmm.
services, and then
Hmm.
you can see if they are actually applying for a role in sale point product company itself.
Hmm. Okay, got it. So we know there are actually two parts on this question. I would answer it in two parts. So I want to categorize it in two kind of interviews. One would be the general consulting firms like PwC, Deloitte, UI, whatever, and The other is the product-based professional services like SailPoint, right? So when you're giving interviews for the consulting firm, they don't only check your IAM knowledge; they are hiring for you for particular developer or architect role, right? So you have to have SailPoint related development in architecture knowledge or engineering. They will have technical rounds on those things, unlike how you implement, how you do aggregation, how you create aggregation tasks in SailPoint. Those kind of basic questions you have to clear your basics. And when you now the second part comes on the second category is when you go for the sale point interviews, right? The sale point interviews are not like they won't ask you how do you know sale point or not. They will if they will train you because it's their product, right? Or any other product company for that. What they will test is your IM knowledge, right? How you tackle use cases. Like if you like say, if I can give you an example, like if there's an Active Directory, you have to create Active Directory SAM account name at the time of joiner, and you have to search throughout the domain, right? And when you aggregate stuffs on SailPoint or any other product, you probably will have some kind of filter. You don't will not have all the information of the specific domain. So when you search over that whole domain, how you will you do that? How the use case will come up? How will you tackle those challenges? So this kind of use case related problem, these product related companies will ask you to understand your knowledge on the sale point, and not only sale point, on the IAM on a form. This is how your technical knowledge would. The one thing is IAM, second thing is your obviously your coding skills or programming skills, and also your problem solving skills as well. So these three things I think would be the main differentiator between getting a job in a product company rather than in consulting companies would be much more focused on your specific role they are interviewing for. Either it's a SailPoint role or an SailPoint architect or a ping service architect, right? So they will ask for ping questions on related.
And I think they will be more focused on tools, right? And here it'll be more on use
Yes,
cases. I think that is a broad.
exactly.
Okay. So thank you very much, Ankan. With that, I would
Mm.
want to wrap up today's session. It was really informative, and I hope people get inspired and then you get some really good engineers to join SailPoint. And as well as I think a lot of the myths and queries for people will be cleared through this podcast. And
Mhm.
again, I just want to thank you for taking your time on a Sunday evening and then agreeing for this particular session. So thank you very much, Ankan. It was really nice.
No problem. It was really nice talking you two guys and interact with community, to be honest.
Thank you. And I wish all your dreams would come
Mhm.
true, right? And again, the world is very small. Hope we get an opportunity to work together at some point in here.
Yeah, definitely.
So with that, I'll wrap up today's session. Thank you, Praveen and
Mhm.
Vinod, for joining us for the question, and Ankan.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Take care. Bye, everyone.